I'd just like to welcome everybody to the meeting of today, the 14th of November 2022. I'd just like to remind everybody that if they can have all electronic devices, including laptops and mobile phones, to be in silent mode, please. Thanks. Magda, do we have any apologies and attendance of those in the chambers and online, please?
Thanks, Convener. We have apologies from Councillor Forbes with Councillor Duff substituting. All members are present in the chambers. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Magda. Members of the committee, I was wondering if you would be agreeable to hear the 4 deputations on item 5 on the agenda, which is the Class 3 business opportunity at the Riachan Car Park at Lochray. Do we agree? Thank you. Do any of the members have any declarations of interest on any of the items on the agenda today? I don't see anything coming up in the chat.
Yes. So I have a declaration of interest in relation to the one in the Riachan Car Park, and I'll be withdrawing for that paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duff. Can I ask members for the approval of the minute of the Property Subcommittee on the 13th of June 2022? Thanks. So we move to paper 4, the future use of Rodney Centre, and I'd like to ask Norman Ballantyne to introduce this report, please.
Thanks, Convener. Good morning, everyone. This report is a follow-up to the Council of 22nd of June, where the approval was given for Live Active Leisure to withdraw services from the Rodney Centre. Alongside this approval, the officers requested to consider alternative public service use for Rodney and potential for Rodney to be used as an annex for Canoe Primary School. Excuse me. So if I can just summarise the paper, we looked at the opportunities for Canoe, but previous investment through the Early Learning and Childcare programme means that there's not a requirement there. We also looked at the use of Rodney for the Health and Social Care Partnership, but the scale, the size of the building and the costs associated with refurb discounted that. We didn't identify any additional council service requirement for the building, which left the community asset transfer. There was a number of interested parties. This has resulted in the submission of 2 expressions of interest, which our communities team are working with the groups on. So in terms of recommendations, the recommendations are that we note there is no service requirement from the council or the partnership for Rodney, that there is no requirement for it as an annex to Canoe Primary, excuse me, that we have received 2 expressions of interest, and that we allow a reasonable time for these expressions of interest to be turned into formal community asset transfers, which would be May 2023. If we don't receive any formal CAT applications, then we would market the building. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks very much, Mr. Ballantyne. I have some questions coming in there. First is Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Convener, and thanks for the report. I just wanted to ask about the attempts to see if any public service providers were interested in the Rodney Centre, and the report speaks of the council and the Health and Social Care Partnership. Can you say what other public service providers, in particular NHS Tayside, were consulted in this respect, and are there any others other than NHS Tayside? Thanks.
Mr. Ballantyne.
Excuse me. Yeah, we spoke to NHS Tayside. However, they did not come back with any concrete proposals for the building. we haven't. There was no other community planning partners who expressed any interest in the building.
Thank you. Go to Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, it's just a matter of the closing date, the May 2023, for if there's not a CAT application by then. I'm slightly concerned in that CATs can sometimes take a while to put together. So rather than just automatically marketing the property, would it be possible to bring it back here at that point?
Mr. Ballantyne, what are your views on that?
We thought that the May 23 was a reasonable time period for the community applications to be put in place. I think if they were being developed and they were needing additional time, then I think that is something that we would bring back to the property subcommittee. I think we're trying to avoid a situation where this just drags out for a significant length of time without any great development. I think if there was clear community interest and the CAT application was clearly being developed but was needing more time, then absolutely we would come back to the committee with that.
Thanks. You're happy with that, Councillor Cuthbert?
Very happy, thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. My question was along the same line, so it's been answered. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Convener. A similar question along the lines of Councillor Cuthbert's. Do we know whether the two groups that have made an expression of interest are formally constituted? You know, are they ready to move fairly quickly? And this council doesn't have a great record in terms of successfully promulgating community asset transfers. You know, I'm thinking that there could well be, you know, lottery funding bids to be submitted in order to purchase this, and it looks like we're not actually offering a 6-month timescale, which would seem quite reasonable, but it could just be down to about 5 months, which seems to me a bit tight. So I would like to ensure that we give at least 6 months, take some assurance from the responser regarding Councillor Cuthbert's questions. But it is, you know, do we know how well placed the two groups that have expressed interest are to move on this as yet?
Yes, I think that they both are constituted and ready to go, but I'll pass to Mr. Ballantyne.
Yeah, yes, they are. They're both constituted and ready to go. And again, if they are being developed, then we would absolutely come back to committee with that update.
Thanks. Councillor Duff.
Thanks. Yeah, just in relation to the community asset transfer process, does the decision today prevent a third community interest being expressed if there is anybody else?
No, in my understanding, this is just opening it up for that period. And I agree with the concerns that have been raised, but I think the reason given that we don't want to be sitting on a building that we're not moving on for months and months and months. So I think that was, but I'll just check with Mr. Ballantyne.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Convener.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale, a second question.
Yeah, thanks. Just on a similar vein, I just wanted to understand, it's clear that there is this 6-month period, but if, for example, during that 6-month period, the current expressions of interest are withdrawn, are we still leaving it open to further expressions of interest up until May, or does it have to be a formal CAT request by May? I'm just wondering if, you know, with a view to not having the property empty any longer than it need be, if there is a way in which this can be accelerated where the current expressions of interest to be withdrawn.
My understanding is it will be open till May for any expression of interest. The current ones or new ones coming in. And I think this committee would be minded if there was an expression of interest that was well developed and positive, that we would be able to come here again and set the date back. But I'll go to Mr. Ballantyne again.
No, again, Convener, I would agree with what you've said there, absolutely.
Thanks for clarifying. Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have any more questions? Sorry, Councillor McKeon, you're not coming through in the chat here.
That's okay. As regards the building itself, is it currently wind and watertight? You know, we're moving to winter period. Is there any planned works, and what have the costs of that already been to the council to maintain the building in a state that people will want as an asset transfer?
Thanks. I will pass this one across straight away without making any comment. Mr. Ballantyne.
The building is wind and watertight, yeah. The investment that's been made in the building has been as part of Lal's occupation of the building. The part of the 6-month period is to try and ensure that the building doesn't deteriorate in that time. So there's been no additional investment in the building as such, but it is wind and watertight, and it's maintained up to the level that it was at the point where Lal withdrew.
Thanks. Do we have any other questions? If we don't have any other questions, after discussion with Mr. Fogg, I think we would maybe wish to add a sentence at the bottom of bullet point 4, and it might give clarity to what we're trying to achieve here.
Yes, thank you, Convener. As stated, I haven't had a chance to speak to Mr. Ballantyne about this, but looking at the purpose of the 4th bullet point here, I did wonder if the committee would wish to extend the wording on that 4th bullet point to provide after received by May 23, or if received, not granted thereafter. Because what I have in mind is it's quite possible that there will be an application submitted, but the council resolves not to grant it. And it might be prudent to provide for that scenario to allow it to be marketed thereafter without having it to come back in September or something, or August, simply for confirmation that you could proceed to market it. I have in mind, for example, as Councillor Barrett said, we haven't had many successful CAT applications, but it's entirely foreseeable that you could get one that's validly received. We have to secure best value. It might be assessed at £200,000 and the CAT applicant not able to meet that price, therefore it cannot be granted. And you might want to provide for that now, given that's easily to anticipate as an outcome, but it's a matter for the committee.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Barrett, as a point of clarity.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. It's just to ask Mr. Fogg, you know, what is the benefit of adding this particular clause at this particular time? If there was a business case submitted that members were going to consider in May or sometime after May as to whether it was viable and worth pursuing. Presumably, if they decided that it wasn't, then at that point they could agree to market the building.
The issue is whether or not it needs to come back to this committee for that decision to be retaken, or whether you're happy to provide for that eventuality now. That's all.
Well, just to follow up on that, any decision on the business case is going to be determined by this committee.
From here, I couldn't possibly comment on that, as you know. This has nothing to do with how the committee might resolve to determine the application. It's only looking to say, were the application not to be successful, do you want to give authority for it to be marketed? That's all that the additional wording would provide for.
Thank you for that. In which case, if it's not going to impact on this committee's ability to determine or consider the business case, then fine.
Okay, thanks for that and thanks for the questions. It's much better to get clarity than just proceed. So I would like to just move the report as is stated in the recommendations, with the addition of the sentence that and the sentiment that Mr. Fogg has just given us.
And I'm happy to second that motion.
Thank you. Do we have any comments? I see Councillor Barrett has a comment.
Yeah, just briefly, convener. Obviously, I was very keen that the Rodney be considered to be an annex to Kinole Primary School. I did think that it offered a kind of once in a lifetime opportunity to provide the increased playground space that the present primary school lacks. But the matter's been gone into and there's adequate early years and nursery provision elsewhere in the city centre. So I'm grateful that officers have gone through that. Like other members of this committee, I'm very keen to see that the building is occupied and put to a good community use as soon as possible, and the hope that the groups are able to put forward viable and sustainable business cases in the 6-month period that we've now given them. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Can we agree with the report? Thank you. We now move to paper 5, which is the Class 3 business opportunity at Riachan Road Car Park at Lochray. Can I ask Lise Campbell to introduce the report, please?
Yes, thank you, convener. Good morning, everybody. Well, this report seeks approval to market a site in the Riachan Road Car Park in Pitlochry for a lease of a Class 3 business use. That would be a restaurant, cafe, a snack bar. The area to be leased is shown in Appendix 2. Planning consent for a change of use of this area was granted following Planning and Development Management Committee approval on the 7th of April 2021. Prior to this planning application being considered and the receipt of a request to lease an area of the car park for commercial use, the council had not identified this area of land for disposal. So now it's not, we can say it's not been marketed in line with the council's normal approach to asset disposal for sale or lease. A parking survey that was commissioned by the council and undertaken by transport consultant Sistra shows that the Riachan Road car park to have a capacity issue during peak periods, but that there was adequate alternative parking elsewhere in the Pitlochry town. Further, at the times when the surveys were carried out, the coach parking area peaked at 50% occupancy. So based on this report, there is evidence that there is adequate provision of car parking spaces across the town to support marketing the defined area for a Class 3 business use in support of local business growth and development. The proposal that we would put forward on the marketing is for a 2-month period to establish any interest and to seek proposals from any interested parties. The marketing would be on the basis that the site be let on a ground lease for 10 years on commercial terms and at a commercial rent, which we would propose to be at a fixed rate, base rate per annum, with an additional element of rent calculated as a percentage of annual turnover on top. And it would be a market-led rent to ensure best value. The leasing will be on the basis that the full cost of safely accommodating the change of use and reinstating the site when the use ceases is met by the tenant. All compliant offers will be submitted to the subcommittee for consideration and determination once they're received after this period of marketing. And it's further recommended that whilst this marketing is underway, the traffic and network team carry out an assessment of how best to reconfigure the Riachan car park to increase capacity potential, utilising underused coaching parking spaces at the minute, perhaps, and investigations carried out to redesignate the car park as a short-term parking basis to better manage the use of other car parks in the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask Mr. Wood to come up to the lectern and we will listen to his deputation. Thank you. 10 minutes maximum to speak, and we will warn you when 9 minutes have elapsed. I think it'd be fair to just give a short introduction. That'd be fine.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Wood. I'd like to declare I and my wife own 2 businesses in Pitlochry. We've been there for 17 years and we've been a key members of the community in Pitlochry. And I'm here primarily to be concerned about our car parking issues for the community and our businesses. And I'm also a Group Scout leader, so I'm a bit tired. I've been on camp this weekend, so so excuse me if I waffle a little bit. So, are we good to go? Yeah. Okay. So as you all know, Pitlochry is a very busy tourism town. Its main economy is driven by tourism. The shops and restaurants that are established there are based on tourism, and it's a must-stop destination for tour companies and coach tours. The infrastructure we have, which is the car parks, helps us to deliver major events such as Highland Games, ETAP and the Enchanted Forest. As one of Scotland's premier destinations, our role is to attract tourism and tourists to stop there. It's to provide a safe place to park and explore the town. And our aim is to extend that stay as long as possible to achieve the greatest economic benefit from our visitors. And currently, everyone who enters the car parks will leave the car parks and they explore the town and they share the wealth that they bring to that town around everywhere. On previous occasions, this committee has been asked on 2 occasions now, is Riachan Road surplus to use? This is a key question. We have twice successfully argued it is not, and the car parking survey provides the data to prove this. It has been argued that it is only a perception there is a car parking problem, but that perception in 2018 secured £150,000 worth of PKC capital investment to increase car parking, but to date no suitable location has been found. Over 50% of residents in a community CAP survey that was conducted in the second half of this year stated car parking is a major issue within the town. Car parking is regularly raised issue with the Community Council, and they've been asked to raise the matter with the Council. And speaking this week with many people, not one person has agreed with the conclusions of this survey. Car parking issues are regularly discussed on Facebook, especially during the Enchanted Forest. This is a really useful report. I like this report, and it provides great information that can start a very important conversation with the businesses and community of Pitlochry. However, any report needs to be put into context, and data alone cannot dictate an outcome. Additional information needs to be considered, including the time the survey was conducted, any extenuating circumstances, i.e. COVID recovery, and the lack of visitors' confidence to mix of others. There needs to be a reality check. Is the data being interpreted correctly? The report is only a brief snapshot of the traffic volumes experienced in Pitlochry. It is also important to consider that no parking strategy is based on the minimum number of parking spaces required, and that Pitlochry sees great extremes in visitor volumes throughout the year. But does it answer the question, is Riachan Road car park surplus to use? Well, item 6.9.6 states on the survey, it is noted that Riachan Road car park operates at around 80% of maximum occupancy for 2 hours in March, and at around 90% of maximum occupancy for around 4 hours in July. 6.9.7 says, if the 30-minute maximum stay on Athol Road was policed by wardens on a more regular basis, and vehicles in the Beat 1A are moved off-street car parking moved to the off-street car parking, there is very limited capacity available in Riachan Road on a Saturday. And it is also important to remember that this survey was done when we were still recovering from COVID. We had no international visitors, coach holidays were non-existent, and large numbers of the Highland Tour to us that arrived after 6 o'clock when the survey had finished. I fully appreciate why the report states the coach park was underutilised. However, if this survey had continued after 6 o'clock, the occupancy would have been significantly higher. The number of coaches using the car park was not in any way typical to pre-COVID times. I'm aware that some of you should have received letters from the tour operators directly and their experience of this year and projections for the future. So I won't labour the point, but happy to take questions afterwards. One main issue the report identifies is on-street illegal parking. This is highlighted as a significant issue with either people overstaying the permitted time or parking at illegal locations. Pitlochry has a traffic management issue in which on-street parking plays a significant role. The key areas of concern that are currently being investigated is on Athol Road south of the town, between East Moulin Road and the escape route. Many visitors park in this unrestricted area. This road is too narrow to allow two-vehicle traffic and jams often occur. This was particularly bad during the Enchanted Forest. The option of introducing double yellow lines along this stretch of road is being investigated. If this is implemented, then the lost spaces will need to be accommodated within the town's car parks, which are already close to capacity according to the report. I have only really one key issue with this report, and that relates to the number of available car parking spaces. The report states there are 603 spaces available, but the survey should only really include car parking spaces that are controlled by Perfect Kinross Council. These are on-street parking and car parks owned by the council. But the report includes privately operated car parks, including the co-op, the railway station, private parking at the rear of the premise store and the recreation ground. It also includes 8 bays controlled by Fisher's Hotel and even a drop-off bay. The report doesn't show how they have calculated the length of each of the on-street car parking bays. According to the AA report, it is easy to calculate that this report has overstated the number of potential spaces available. The AA reported that on average, a street car park bay is only 4.8 metres long, whilst Britain's most popular car, the Ford Mondeo, is 7.1 centimetres longer than the bay. Pitlochry's designated on-street parking bays are not individually marked, so how many cars fit in its bays is dependent on how well people park. For example, on Bonnet Hill Road, it is stated there is space for 75 unrestricted parking bays. When you remove the driveways, the road is actually 202 metres long. I've measured it. Based on the AA statement of 4.8 metres per space, this road would provide space for 42 cars as long as they're smaller than a Mondeo. Even with some error of margin, the survey calculates 79% more vehicles can be parked on this road compared to the AA's calculations. The same can be said on Athol Road and West Moulin Road. This is where the report needs a reality check. If you count council-only operated car parks, restricted on-street car parking and unrestricted parking based on the AA's calculations of 4.8 metres, if this reality check is given serious consideration, then the combined available car parking spaces would be 373 spaces compared to 603 spaces identified by the survey. This has a considerable impact on the overall occupancy calculations stated in the report, and it would significantly raise these occupancy rates and actually give a true reflection of the parking challenges Pitlochry faces on a daily basis through our peak seasons, our major events and our busy days during the off season. But this survey is just a small snapshot of 4 days out of 365 in the first half of a post-COVID year. The survey doesn't consider all the major events we hold. It doesn't reflect the impending changes to on-street parking. It doesn't take into account the sudden increase in traffic wardens and now how many patrols are done because the report's being published. and it doesn't consider the future growth of the tourism growth strategy PK has signed up to. That tourism growth strategy states that we need to achieve a 3% year-on-year increase in tourism over the next 5 years, increase in visits occurring between October and March, increase the level of domestic and international overnight stays. This growth will see more visitors coming by car, which is the most popular form of transport. They will soon all be electric, and if we want to attract them to Pitlochry, we will need somewhere to park them and charge them. The report does not say we have ample parking, or that this committee is in a position to release previously unidentified land for commercial use. This report clearly states Pitlochry
Thanks,
needs
Mr. Wood.
adequate. I've got one sentence.
I've got to be fair to everybody. I'll
Okay.
stop everybody at that
Okay.
time. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for that. Do we have any questions for Mr. Wood? Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, convener. Mr. Wood, you referred to the levels of tourism and visitor numbers coming to Pitlochry not reaching pre-COVID levels. Have you any idea of what the shortfall is at the present moment in time, or at the time that the surveys were conducted?
Absolutely, yes. Obviously, I have a business. I record all my data. In March, we were 40% down on actual volumes, and I'll quite happily present that to the committee if you need it in the future. By July, we were down to 10% below volumes coming through my particular shop. But significantly, there were far less coaches coming through. We just did not have international visitors coming into the town, and that's what actually drives the Rabbies, the Heartland FM, the Highland Experience type coaches, even Locks and Glens, which accommodate the older people to their hotels. There wasn't the confidence for these people to mix. And it's only really the second half of the year, from July onwards, certainly August has been very good. And August, September and October, and even now into November, we're actually exceeding pre-COVID numbers, which, and thankfully so, because we started to bounce back. So,
Thanks. Just to pick up on a point there, where you said in July the figure was only 10% lower than you would pre-COVID levels, but you stated that there was a good lot of buses less. So to me, that would mean if the buses had been running to their level, you would have been over the COVID level, but we still only see the car parking spaces used as that, as it is.
yeah, what we did find was that there was a higher number of people coming by car, but the report actually shows that a lot of people would, well, I don't actually understand this element of the report. It's saying a lot of people arrived, but they only stayed for 15 minutes and then they left the car parks. And I don't know why that is. One of them could be that there wasn't sufficient room in those car parks. But if you look at the car parks, and this is where the problem is, this states that there are 603 spaces. There's not 603 spaces available. There's actually long stay car parks. There's only actually 233 long stay car parks spaces available. And then when you add on to the street car parking, that takes it to, I think it was 375, I said it was. So it's the volumes. That's why we're not seeing it. We would normally have a lot more people in there coming by coach, which would increase our volumes. The capacity of the car park is not there, as has been stated in the report. Does that make it clear?
I just find it strange that the report would be about 100% out or 50% out.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. And it's a glaring error, which I find. That's why I think we need to do a reality check on that. I mean, I've not made up the length of the car parking bay. That came from the AA. The AA state that the average car parking bay is 4.8 metres long. Now, if you go up from Escape Route down to West East Moulin Road, where the Scouter is, there they're saying 65 vehicles can park. But if you measure it, actually do a linear measurement and then divide that by 4.8, you can only get 42 cars in there. So there is an error here in the amount of vehicles that can be, how many cars you can get in these spaces. And I have mentioned this to a number of people. I've actually walked up and down. Hopefully you've all seen the petition from the businesses, of which I'm a signatory of as well. And I've mentioned that you can get 75 vehicles parked on Bonnet Hill Road. It's impossible. They would have to be double parked so you couldn't drive down it. That's the reality. Is we're on the street, we're there, we can see what's happening, and I appreciate this committee has to be from afar, but if you really want to, come up to Pitlochry and I will show you the street and you can decide for yourself, how do I get 75 vehicles parked on Bonnet Hill Road? It is impossible.
Do we have anybody from Sistra here? So I'll give you a chance to come in. In a past life, I did MOTs and worked in the motor trade, and a Mondeo is quite a large car compared with a lot of other cars you get. Thanks. It's just the query over the query about the data supplied for the number of car parking spaces.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm Alistair Kay from Sistra. We were commissioned by Perth and Kinross Council to undertake these surveys, and what we do is we go out to a third-party survey company. I'm not used to in-person meetings. In this case, what we did was we went out to a company based in Glasgow, Nationwide Data Collection, who went out, and prior to the first survey on the 17th of March, they went round the whole of Pitlochry, counted every marked on-street bay, and then in areas where there was no marking, they go round with a trundle wheel. They measure the lengths of both sides of the road, and then they divide this length by 6 metres to get the available number of parking spaces so that it can accommodate a car such as a Ford Mondeo with clearance either side for parking. So this was independently surveyed by the company that undertook the traffic surveys.
Thank you. Brian.
If I could just add to that, just to clarify, in an off-street car park, a parking bay, the length of it is quite correct. It's 4.8 metres, and the width is usually in the region of about 2.5 metres. But on street, there's a requirement for somebody to reverse in and to get out. So a parking bay on street is naturally bigger than a 4.8 metres, so it's 6 metres. So that's what you would need to bear in mind when we've broken this down. It's 6 metre sections for a parking bay.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions? Councillor Barrett.
So it was really just to seek further clarification on the methodology that was used for the unmarked parking bay streets, which was to measure it with a trundle wheel and then divide by 6, but there didn't seem to be any netting off of driveway widths or allowing manoeuvrability spaces either side of a driveway, which would considerably reduce the number of spaces if you rather than just dividing by 6.
Back to the gentleman from Sistra.
Yeah, they would leave accesses clear, etc. It would just be areas where legal parking could be provided without blocking entrances and driveways.
Thanks. Do we have any further questions for Mr. Wood? Don't see any other questions, Mr. Wood, so thank you very much for your deputation.
Just say that I appreciate what you said about the 6 metres, but it's genuinely wrong. I've also done a trundle wheel on the same place.
Thank you for your deputation. Can we have the next deputation, please? Mike Williamson.
Okay, to start. Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. This report brings to light perhaps what many of us already knew or suspected. Its publication highlights that there are some significant challenges, but opportunities do exist for better management of traffic in Pitlochry. I'm hoping that whatever comes out of this meeting today is a solution that benefits everyone. Pitlochry sits approximately 2 hours travelling time from the Central Belt and serves as a transition point for schemes such as the North Coast 500, Go Rural and the Hart 200, along with being on the edge of the Cairngorms National Park. There are a great number of short walks and beauty spots within easy travelling distance of the town, so the transitory nature of the traffic travelling or arriving in town is highlighted within this report. Pitlochry streets have a vibrancy about them, with tourists who come to the town in a steady flow by either car, coach or train. The streets have also to be shared with an active agricultural industry and a thriving silviculture business, with many woods now reaching maturity in the surrounding area. Indeed, Pitlochry is on the approved timber transport route. The report highlights that the average, that the 30 minutes of free street parking has been taken advantage of, with between 40% and 45% of cars on a Thursday and rising to 55% and 59% on a Saturday of cars parking in excess of the 30 minutes waiting time, bringing with it a moderate to high levels of congestion in the town. There are 3 points of congestion within the town related to the volume of on-street parking. Firstly, as already been mentioned, at the Scout Hut, running approximately 200 to 300 metres to the Tourist Information Office in Pitlochry, and can create a bottleneck which restricts traffic to a signalled lane. The second within the town is at the junction of the Westmoreland Road and Athol Road. This is a tight, busy junction, often with pedestrians trying to cross and cars parked outside the Athol Leisure Centre. This causes congestion onto the Athol Road. Finally, as you exit the town, heading north, whilst the problems here create an issue with traffic trying to exit this at Station Road. All three of these pinch points result in the traffic being reduced to just one lane and at times can reduce response times for emergency vehicles, but also impeding the free flow of traffic. The study is quite clear on its recommendations on the issue of excessive on-street parking and what measures can be taken. I also attended a meeting on Thursday about the extraction of timber from the Ballyuchan Woods on Llewellyn Moor. The proposal is to remove around 20,000 tonnes of wood over the next 10 years. Whilst no final conclusions have been confirmed, the developer highlighted at the meeting that their preferred route would be down the A924 and into Pitlochry. Any measures taken to facilitate an increased transport of timber may require the reconfiguration of on-street parking along the Athol Road. I believe from the report there is a recommendation that there is some surplus capacity within the Pitlochry car parks. I would tend to agree with this, but over the years, as has already been said, cars and lorries have got much bigger, yet our parking spaces have remained the same. So along with my colleague, Councillor Andrew Parrott, who's the convener of the Environment Services, we have asked officers to look at creating a car parking policy. And we hope that this review will allow us to examine better how we use our car parks and manage them. There is a feeling that one of the reasons for the ongoing issues with on-street parking is that there is not enough visible signage or to direct people into parking that is available within the town. It is my belief that this issue has divided opinion in the community. People are acutely aware of the congestion within Pitlochry on busy days. There is a fear locally that leasing out the ground within the Riacan car park will displace more traffic to on-street parking. I believe that if the committee is minded to accept the recommendation within the report, there is an opportunity for this committee to support me in allaying some of the fears locally by requesting that parking within Pitlochry is reviewed to enable better management of the existing spaces through better direction available to parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williamson. Do we have any questions for Mike? Any questions at all? No questions. You. I believe we have a statement rather than an in-person deputation, and I'll suggest Gilda Clark to read out the statement from Mr Hamilton.
Thank you, Convener. This statement is read out on behalf of Fiona Hamilton. I object to the recommendations contained within the report regarding Riakin Road car park in Pitlochry. This vital, much needed and much used public space should not be leased under any terms for a number of reasons. Parking survey. The parking survey you are using to support this proposal is full of errors. The following are just a few examples. There are many more. It states that between Larchwood Road and Burnside Road, there are 44 parking spaces, when in fact there are only 27 spaces. Between Burnside Road and East Moulin Road, there are 79 parking spaces, when in fact there are only 45 spaces. Station Road has 34 parking spaces. One assumes that you are including ScotRail's private car park, when in fact there are only 12 spaces. Various data presented in this report does not stand up to any scrutiny, and it would be reckless for PKC to make any decisions based on its content. Environmental and health impact. Riakin Road car park is in a residential area. If this car park is changed to short stay, there will be a huge increase in turnover of vehicles, with the consequent huge increase in toxic emissions. There is already much traffic congestion in this area, particularly in Station Road, due to vehicles exiting the car park. Long queues often build up as vehicles wait to turn onto Athol Road. A short stay car park will increase the traffic build-up, leading to further congestion and very high levels of toxic emissions. This will have a negative and detrimental impact on residents' health. There are 4 blocks of flats and 2 other dwellings in Riakin Road, West Lane and Station Road. Many families with children live in these homes. Surely an environmental impact study is the very least requirement of the council to ensure their residents' safety. Would this not be a legal requirement? If not, it is certainly a moral one. Transparency and openness. From the very start of the process to change the use of this car park, there has been a lack of transparency and openness. Local residents were denied their right by Perth and Kinross Council to speak at the Planning Committee, which kicked this whole thing off. Although PKC accept that this was due to an error on your part, you offer no redress to correct that error. Instead, you continue to compound that error. Based on PKC's record of excluding local residents, I would have expected some effort from you to keep us informed of any developments in this saga. I only heard about this proposal in the last week, and many residents will not even be aware of it. Whilst you proactively exclude residents, it would be interesting to know how many meetings and discussions have already taken place between PKC and any potential bidders for this site. The vast majority of local residents, i.e. people who live adjacent to the car park, are firmly opposed to any plan to allow a restaurant to operate from the car park. Yet you persist in your attempt to push this through. PKC has chosen at all stages of this process to exclude local residents. No decision should be taken on this proposal without a full and open public consultation with local residents at the forefront. In summary, I believe that this proposal should not go forward due to the many inaccuracies contained within the parking survey, extreme risks to public health and safety, severe negative impact on car parking and traffic management, a lack of any environmental impact assessment, a lack of transparency and openness, a lack of public consultation, inappropriate use of a vital public amenity space. End of statement. Thank you.
Thank you for reading out Fiona Hamilton's statement, which is obviously a statement, and I'm afraid we can't ask any questions or challenge any parts of that because it's being a statement. So I'll ask Mr. McCallum to come and speak, and Mia McCallum.
Good morning, councillor and officers. My name is Mia McCallum. I'm here with my parents, Isra and Fergus. We have been working with Perth and Kinross Council since 2019, and we want to thank Perth and Kinross officers for their help and support to reach this point. Section 4 of your report says the planning was subject to entering a legal agreement. This has been done, and planning permission has been issued on the 29th of April 2022. I am 20 years old. We started talking to Perth and Kinross Council in late 2019 and I was 17. In 2019, we engaged with Perth and Kinross Council, including Business Gateway, your estate team, planning road and planning team who came out to the site with us. We submitted a number of planning pre-application to arrive at the layout that was approved by the planning committee. We have prepared an economic impact statement. This was lodged again with Jonathan James a few weeks ago. It shows a positive economic benefit. I am young and a first-generation immigrant. I want to build a business that will give me and my mother a way to make a living in our community and providing jobs and financial benefit to our community. I ask the committee to move forward with advertising this site. Thank you for listening to me, Mia.
Good morning. Good morning, councillors and officers. My name is Fergus McCallum. I also want to thank the councillors and officers of PKC for all the work they've been involved in over the years. If some others today have said they represent the community, that's something that's been said in the planning meeting. It's been said in the previous property subcommittee meetings. However, the Community Council are not here to object. They represent the community. The theme group of the CAP with responsibility for parking, they are not here and they are not objecting about the parking. Pitlochry Partnership, which represents the towns, restaurants and accommodation providers, they are not here to object. The planning application received more support than objections. We have a 4-figure petition in support of this project. It is online for public inspection and validation. I wasn't aware that there was a petition by businesses, although I do know that, I apologise, Mark, I know Mark personally. Mark was recruiting for that petition on Monday the 4th, before the actual document was published on the 8th. I'm sorry again, Marcus, but I apologise. I say we do know Mark and known him for years. Mark's got a business and Mark has been very passionately placing procedural objections, saying that he represents the community, etc. for 2 or 3 years. I understand that Mark owns a restaurant and has concerns. I also know that although Mark has on this occasion and before expressed the problems with the parking space, he also made a planning application for a larger restaurant in the same space.
Could I get you to keep to the paper, because I don't want this to descend
Sure.
into personality. And to be fair to Mr. Wood, he only related to his objections on parking. I know that he did claim to represent the community, and so I gave you the wriggle room to dispute that, but I don't want it to descend any further, if you can understand that.
I apologise. In essence, that's the point I want to make. I think the community has an opportunity to hear matters. I think that the council has worked very hard to identify the issues, investigate the issues and establish the facts. I have nothing else to say apart from thank you to the officers and the councillors for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCallum. Do we have any questions for Mr. McCallum? Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, I find this an intriguing proposal. I was just wondering if you could give a brief outline of your view, your concept, your vision, if you like, on what you would like to see happening there.
Thank you for asking. I'm actually the train spotter in the family. I love trains. Don't know if anybody else does. We actually purchased 2 former British Rail Mark III carriages that used to run on the line. One's a first-class dining carriage and one's a first-class seated carriage. We've restored them to the colours and scheme as they would have appeared in the late 1980s. The idea is my wife and daughter are both Thai British citizens, and they want to run a Thai restaurant. So they want to run a Thai restaurant. I wanted to own a train. We submitted a plan. We worked with the council. They were very supportive. It's obvious we accept that the area was a little bit tight, and there was some issues identified by the council. We've been working with Jonathan Janes over the last few months. I got a chance to buy another carriage, a very different carriage, a 1920s carriage. And again, we're going to probably try and go ahead with, if allowed, if we go ahead, to submit 2 different proposals. This is a far narrower proposal, and it tries to deal with the problems that were identified around swept paths and space. And we've taken all the recommendations that came from the council on board, and we're trying to work with the council. So it's my wife and daughter who want to run the restaurant, and I love trains.
Thanks. Just to remember, elected members, that this isn't specifically about the proposal that Mr McCallum and his wife and daughter have. What we're here to decide today is if we're going to put it out to for lease to any commercial person who wants to tender for the price. Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Mr McCallum, you'd said that the council's had the opportunity to investigate the proposals and establish the facts and its views, and it seems to have done that twice now, and on each time it hasn't found in your favour. So, what has changed this time round, or what have been the material changes this time round that should give this committee, pause to reconsider the matter?
Thank you for your question. We took on board our architect and our planning consultant ourselves. We took on board the concerns from the property subcommittee. The main concerns, as we understood them, were the swept path, the fact that the carriages came to the edge of the parking space and therefore didn't give clearance for vehicles. So we went out and we purchased an entirely new carriage, which is, as I say, different. So the width, we've drawn some new plans and given them to Jonathan and his team. Instead of being 2 carriages wide, it's now 1 carriage wide, which allows the creation of, it deals with the swept path by pushing back from the corner, and it deals with the width by being half the width. And we're working with your planning team and we're working with your commercial team. So that's the answer. We've purchased an entirely new carriage to take on board the considerations. And obviously, we respected the fact that there was some ambiguity around the parking, and we waited for the parking survey. I hope that helps with the answer.
Thanks. Supplementary?
Yeah, supplementary and kind of with your indulgence, convener, I appreciate what you're saying with regard to we're considering marketing it and not this specific proposal, but associated with this proposal and the previous reports was the accommodation works and the cost of the accommodation works, which I believe were in the region of £80,000. Presumably on top of that, you're going to have the cost of introducing and providing services to the railway cab restaurant. And then there is the matter of the costs of returning the site to its previous condition via a bond or a deposit. I'm assuming that that's going to be in the region of £80,000. So you might not be terribly shy of £200,000 investment before you've sold a meal. And on a 10-year lease, it looks like an awfully difficult financially, or awfully difficult proposal to justify financially and to make it viable.
I'm not quite sure what the question is. I'm sorry.
Well, my question question was, with regard to the future viability of the business, if you've got sort of £200,000 upfront costs, what makes you think that you can deliver a business that's going to be sustainable?
I have great faith in my wife and daughter that they'll run a successful business. They are my wife and daughter. Nothing would make me happier in my life than to establish my daughter in a life. And if it's not the world's best investment up front, on this occasion, I can see compelling reasons to go forward, my daughter.
Thank you. Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. McCallum. I've had maybe the dubious pleasure of actually being on both the planning and the previous committees on this and the previous committee here. One of the main differences obviously presented to this committee today and discussed actually quite in depth already with the other deposition is the Sistra actual parking report. So in general and not in too long a speech, what is your opinion of their report and any clarity that it provides to the parking within Pitlochry and the challenges that Pitlochry itself faces with parking?
I'm obviously not a parking expert. It's the first parking survey I've ever read in my entire life. It seems to me a very fair survey. It seems to suggest that there is capacity at all times and seems to suggest there's more in the winter. I mean, I think Councillor Williamson is very right that, and I know it's been discussed by the Community Council and the CAP, that perhaps better signage to point towards the less utilised car parks, looking at perhaps how short stay, long stay. But again, I'm completely out of my depth. I'm not an expert on parking surveys, but I think that the town, a little bit better signage might help. I've always thought that.
Thanks. Do we have any other questions for me or Mr. McCallum? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the deputation. Yeah, it's not going. I'm sorry that my chat doesn't seem to be functioning at all just now. So we'll now go and ask if there's any questions for officers, and if you can just put your hand up if you wish. Councillor Drysdale started off. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. We've heard from deputations this morning significant concerns about the accuracy of the parking survey, in particular the number of car parking spaces that are available within Pitlochry, and a substantial difference between 603, as has been stated in the report, versus 375. Obviously, that's a significant difference of opinion. In addition to that, I have a degree of concern about the impact that a new restaurant or similar on the car park footprint would have on length of stay. Clearly, people who are eating there are going to be parked there for a couple of hours. So I'm just anxious to be convinced that the report for which the council has instructed Sistra is accurate and to be relied upon. And I wonder if you can just give me an assurance as to the accuracy of the numbers of parking spaces throughout the area. Thank you.
I think I'm happy to thanks, convener. I'm happy to comment. We've instructed the car park survey. We've employed a professional consultants who have also provided or appointed a professional data collection company. So we've no reason to doubt that the survey information that we've got, it's been checked on the ground. It really wouldn't be good use of our time if we were to employ somebody to then go out and check it all ourselves. So we have to go on the information that's been provided, and in the past we've used the consultant Sistra a number of times, and to date they've always provided professional and accurate information. So we don't have any doubt that the survey information should be accurate.
Thank you. Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Convener. Looking at there's many charts within the report, the Sistra report, that relate to the duration of stay, and a very, very high percentage. Over 70% of stays seem to be less than 30 minutes. That doesn't give me the impression of visitors. I've visited Pitlochry on several occasions, and I'm never parked for 30 minutes. I'm usually there for 2 to 3 hours. Is this residents parking? Is this residents within Pitlochry coming down to the high street to shop and use the facilities there, and then obviously drive back home again? I've canvassed in Pitlochry, and it's a very hilly place. So I think if I lived there, I'd want to drive down to the shops as well. So what I'm asking is, do these charts reflect that this is actual residential use of parking rather than visitor numbers?
I don't know if we'll have that depth of detail of who was using it, but I'll ask Sistra, please.
What we do when we go out and do the surveys is for the on-street parking, that these were done by humans going out and by parking beats going out on the street, and they have a sheet to fill in. Every bay is numbered, so they write down the last 4 digits of the registration, because that's the unique part these days. They go around, say at 9 o'clock, they write down all the registrations. At 9:30, they go back, they repeat that beat, so they can see what the turnover of these spaces is. So if the vehicle has come and gone within that 30 minutes, we don't know if it was a resident or a visitor, what their trip purpose was, but we know they've been in that space, and we can see how many 30-minute beats that they've stayed. For the off-street car parks, the majority of these were done by what we call automatic number plate registration surveys. So a camera reads their registration as they come in, and then reads their registrations as they go out, so we can detect how long they've stayed for. But again, we don't know their trip purpose, or if they're local residents or tourists, for example.
Okay, thanks. You happy? Okay. Councillor Barrett.
Yeah, a couple of questions, if I may, Convener. The first that concerns me is the omissions from the background to the report in section 4, which makes no reference at all to the committee decision in January of this year to note the petition that was submitted and to take no further action. And the other omission from the report was with regard to the estimated costs of the accommodation costs. And I just wanted to ask officers why both of these items, which would appear significant to me, are missing from the report.
Any officers here who could answer that question, or online?
Yes, I can come in in terms of the omissions on the report. That was an error in terms of the writer of the paper, and we do apologise for that. In terms of the costs, the actual costs in terms of works, etc., will actually have to be appraised once offers are received, and there will be no inclusion of missives till they've been verified also.
Okay, I think my second question relates to paragraph 6 of the report, which refers to best value of public resources, including land and property. And I just wondered, how does best value square with revisiting the lease of this land for a third time? And how can best value be considered in the absence of any estimate of the ground rent or lease of the land, in particular if they're going to pale into significance against the accommodation costs?
Okay, well, the site hasn't actually been marketed yet, so it's very, very difficult to ascertain best value. What we will do is, as it's been alluded to in the report, we will market for a 2-month period, and we'll take every single permutation at consideration in terms of offers. Now that doesn't necessarily mean a market rent. It can be a number of things in terms of investment into the site. However, and also issues such as bonds, as it's been mentioned in the report, and to ensure that the council receive enough insurance to be able to revert the site back to its original use if required. So there's a number of things that have to be considered in terms of best value, but we won't be able to bottom that one out until we've done a full marketing period, see all the offers that come forward.
Thank you. Any further questions for any of the officers? Councillor McEwan.
It's more for clarity that the income from renting out part of this car park, would that sit within the housing revenue account and be able to be used for car parking, electric charging, etc., etc.?
I don't like answering questions I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe this money would actually go to the general fund. I need to check that one for you. I don't want to give an answer in committee that I'm not 100% sure on. So I'm sorry about that, but I do believe that it would actually go under the general fund.
Thanks. Are there any other officers online that could give clarity on that point? While we do other questions, maybe somebody could find out for Councillor McEwan. Councillor Drysdale.
Normally rental for something like this would go under general fund, and yes, absolutely, it would be used. What we could do going forward, just to confirm it in a future paper when we come to offers, we could get that one clarified for you about in terms of finance of where the money would be elected to, and it'd obviously be for your members to decide if that's acceptable. So we can clarify it in a future paper, okay, in terms of when we come to market, if it gets to that stage and you decide to do that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McEwan.
So when this comes back to committee, should that happen, and could this committee then decide to ring fence that money for such an outcome, or would that be something that would have to be done by full council and through the budget process?
You know, I think in terms of the monetary, the money that's involved, I think we have done that with all previous papers when we put estates papers up with income. We declare to you where the money is going to be counted. It depends on what funds it's in. Obviously, we've got HRA land, we've got HRA property, we've got general fund property. So the decision's normally an accounting process anyway when it's decided. The issue we have here is, and I'm sorry, I am 100% sure because of the nature of it, it's never been used before and it's no railway cash. I am 100% sure what account this would be allocated to. But if you want me to take this offline and investigate this through finance, I can do that for you and come back to you with an answer on that. I know it's not ideal for the essence of just now, but it's something we can do.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's just for the clarity, because obviously all the parking charges we have in our car parks goes to the parking revenue account. So let's just, and obviously that money is then used to upgrade and maintain that parking, etc., etc.
It's just part of it's the old railway side, and obviously, so it's kind of. I get
that. I'm happy to take offline and.
I don't like kind of jumping in and saying things I'm not 100% sure on. This one I'm a little bit unsure of. So we will check this for you, and we'll get it back to you and get the information that you need.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you. Again, I wanted to come back to officers and ask questions around comments that have been made this morning, and also representations that committee members have received in writing from coach companies. Just in relation to the timing of this, or these surveys in March and July last year, and where that sits in relation to COVID recovery. What would be the views of both officers and Sistra in terms of the timing of the survey and the probable increase in tourism as a consequence of the progress that has been made in COVID recovery and the return of international travellers?
Thanks. I think from our point of view, we were commissioned to carry out a car park survey in Pitlochry. Clearly, there's different periods of the year when car park numbers will be higher or will be lower. We're very, very keen to reflect the busier period, which is why July was chosen. But we're also conscious of trying to get an out of season level of car parking usage. So we chose March as being almost a neutral month to give us an indication. So that's why the 2 months were chosen. In relation to where we are pre or post COVID, certainly from a traffic volume point of view, we're pretty much back to normal in the general on-street traffic volumes. With regards to where we are with the coaches, and that's not really our area of expertise, but certainly from a traffic volume point of view, we're almost back to normal. So hopefully that answers your question.
If I may just follow up, no, not entirely. So yeah, I mean, obviously you can't predict the future, but would it be fair to say that you would expect in 2023 and beyond there to be an increase in coach travel in particular, and stop-offs in Pitlochry as a consequence?
If I may come in, convener.
Yeah, it's not our area of expertise, so I can't comment on that.
If I may come in, convener.
Barbara Renton would like to come in.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara.
Councillor Drysdale, I think that this is a very sort of interesting question. Unfortunately, it becomes really impossible to answer, because while COVID may be almost over, we hope, the impact of the cost of living crisis, the fact that fewer people may be travelling will have an impact. How long that impact will last, it will be impossible to say. So we could undertake another survey in the same periods next year, just to see if there has been an increase, but potentially there could be a decrease as well, just because of other factors rather than COVID.
Thank you, Barbara. Do we have any other questions on this report? Okay, I am happy to move the report with the recommendations that are in it. The change for me, as I have sat on this committee twice before with different views each time, but I feel that the change for me is having the car park survey done. Before we were just listening to opinion, and now that we have the detail of this extensive report, I'm happy to move it with recommendations in 2.1. I would like to add a sixth bullet point in the recommendations, and that would be to, while the marketing is underway, officers requested to, and add to it, to review signage regarding existing car parks and increase enforcement of the on-street parking, if the committee was willing to have that. So I'll move the report on that basis. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, convener. On the basis of the additional points made by yourself, I'm happy to second the motion here. As indicated in my most recent question, I do have a degree of concern that there may be pressure on parking spaces in summer season in particular, and I do believe that we need to keep an eye on that, and as a local authority to respond in the event that the situation does deteriorate. I'm comforted by the comments made by Mrs. Renton and by officers that we will keep an eye on this thing, but in the meantime I'm happy to proceed as per your amended motion.
Thank you. Do we have any amendments to the motion? Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, convener. I would like to move that we do not agree to market the site and that we take no further action with regard to this. I think that the parking survey states that enforcement action on street parking restrictions in the city centre could result in greater use of Riakin Road car park. The parking survey identifies that there are capacity issues at Riakin Road, and I think that our priority should be to facilitate the greater growth in business and coach tourism to Pitlochry, which I think could be thrown into jeopardy by following the motion that you have provided. I think Mr. Wood's concerns regarding the methodology in calculating the parking capacity available on street, and also Ms. Hamilton's comments with regard to that were much more convincing than those of Sistra's, and I also found that the response with regard to best value and how this proposal demonstrates best value, or in this case fails to demonstrate best value, with a significant investment in a site and the risks that would be associated with that were less than convincing, and I think that this committee has got it right on the previous two occasions. The only material change that Mr. McCallum could refer to was the change in the type of coach, which is frankly a planning type matter and not a matter to revisit the principle of the decision that this council has taken twice already.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Good, Peter. In that case, as we have no seconder for amendment, can the rest of us agree with the report? Well, I'll give you comments first, obviously, sorry.
Thank you, convener. I think this is just, I agree with the paper as it stands, where we now look to market this site. That's no decision that actually any business coming forward proposing to use that site will be approved by the council. And obviously it opens up for businesses that we haven't heard from yet about in Pitlochry for this. So I'm happy to agree to this next stage in the process, and then look to see when this comes back to us with a lot more detail about business cases for the different options here and how that could then play into the benefits for the Pitlochry community.
Thank you. Any other comments? No other comments.